I almost caused a full meltdown from the staff because I left a blood trail from my toe down the entire beam that couldn't be cleaned enough to be deemed safe for the next team to compete, clearly drunk with the other female assistant coach. One of them had a black eye, and they were giggling about how they had a fight earlier and were so confused as to why I came to talk to them. So I go for my blind landing vault and super over-rotate and literally run out the doors into the courtyard. I had to walk back into the building to salute the judges. I remember wondering how many tenths they took for all of my steps.
This month, the Tumble Track holiday sale has begun. Check out everything from home equipment to my favorite thing, air tracks and air floors, which are so fun and you can use them anywhere. Check it out at Tumble Track. Visit Tumble Track, TUMBLTRAK, tumbletrack.com. Train smart.
Norbert's has a sale on cable tighteners. Go to norberts.net for a 10% discount on anything with the code GymCastic November. Norbert's is also giving away a $50 Norbert's gift card that can be used on anything in the online store with no minimum. Just follow Norbert's Athletic on Instagram and then like and comment on the giveaway post.
Remember, the show is PG-13, so you might hear a naughty word or two. We've got bees in our bonnets, celebrating the true meaning of Thanksgiving, pointing out every little thing that bothers you about your loved ones. The things in gymnastics that drive us absolutely crazy, no matter how small, shallow, or irrational. The nitpickier, the better. Plus, your stories that we asked you for about crazy things that happen at meets and crazy things that you trained on. We're going to get to those too. Today is November 20th, the week of Thanksgiving. Welcome to GymCastic, the #1 gymnastics podcast in the galaxy. I'm Jessica, and I'm here with Spencer from the Balance Beam Situation. Spencer.
Yes.
Let us begin with the things that bother us the most.
Yeah. I mean, this is really the topic I was born to discuss. Little complaints, my favorite thing. My favorite thing in the whole wide world. So I have many different categories of complaints, obviously. Did I make a spreadsheet? Maybe. We don't know. Who cares? But the answer is yes. But part A that I want to begin with is gymnastics pet peeves, floor music category. Because I think it's ripe. It's ripe for complaints. It's ripe for issues. Because I think we can all agree that, 97% of music is unlistenable. Just garbage. So most floor routines are terrible. At least the music, also the choreography, and everything else about them. Part one, pet peeve number one, sound effects. Phones ringing, that thing, letting Jessica loose by her sound effects buttons. Yeah, that, all of it. Door knocking. Everyday life sounds put into a floor routine. That one might be okay.
Yeah, that one's the only one's all right.
That one might be okay. But other than that, right at. The tackiest possible choice. Sound effects.
I have so many sound effects.
Yeah.
To talk about. Gunshots. Cocking a gun. More gunshots. Smashing windows?
Twice. It made your list twice. That's impressive.
It did, because that's how often it's used. There's so many different kind of gunshot sounds used. And it's like without a political storyline that's being told about it. Without
of course you have to be like, but.
This is, a Black Lives Matter routine. We want to talk about the crimes against the Black community. Without that, what are you doing with the sound effects? Okay, sirens.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, the only exception, April Burkholder, LSU, post Hurricane Katrina, tornado siren, hurricane siren, tribute.
You feel like there was a statement there.
There was a statement.
There was something that was going on.
An homage. That was okay.
I'm anti-sirens because that means there's an emergency. I need you to not be like, oh, we're playing with an emergency. It's like the way I feel about little kids screaming when they're playing. I'm like, screaming means you need help.
Yeah.
Screaming means you're in trouble and you need some assistance. Screaming playing, right out. Sirens in your floor routine, right out. That means there's an emergency and you need help.
Yeah.
If you don't need help, get that siren out of there.
I hear you. Okay, bells and whistles, but I do have an exception to this too, because I couldn't do what I hate without an exception.
Have you not had an exception to every possible pet peeve because you're so worried about making a categorical statement that there might possibly be an exception?
No, because every time I wrote my note, then I would think of something else. Like, I hated this, but I think it was Shantessa Palma, or was it Baby Kyla Ross? I can't remember which Gym Max treasure you did this, but basically they put this that sound.
Oh,
but
like a slide whistle?
No, not the not that. Like a hey, come over here. You're calling a horse sound. When you call a horse.
Yeah, and the gesture you made, like you had a
when
you were roping something.
You're gonna lasso it.
Yeah,
that's how. Yeah. So it was like they put the gain on it, like the volume so loud, like you'd be at a meet and you'd hear it so loud you'd want to cover your ears, and then you'd look on floor and there's this little tiny itty bitty, gymnast in a incredible pose in an emerald green leotard, and then you'd be like, oh, it's Gym Max doing their look at this kid tactic. That was the exception to that.
Yeah.
But a slide whistle, or a train whistle, choo-choo. No. If you're over the age of 8, no.
Yeah. If you've passed your trains phase.
Right.
Although I never passed my trains phase. So.
No, and I've never passed my Lego phase, and it's okay. But I'm just saying, it's a bit much. Absolutely no motor sounds.
I agree. 100% agree.
Cars, motorcycles, jet engines. Don't get me started with the jet engines. You guys, come on. Now, I didn't say mechanical sounds, just engine sounds. So obviously, mechanical sounds are fine. See Mohilan's The Typewriter music by Leroy Anderson that she used in the 2008 Olympics.
I would say that's a different category because that's mechanical music. But it's not just like mechanical sounds, because I think I still have a problem with like a mechanical sound effect. Like that's integrated into the song. It's the song.
It is the song.
It's not like, here's a break for a loose just car horn.
Yeah.
It's not loose. I think it's not in the wild. It's not on its own. It's like part of the song. So I think it's a different category. I don't think that counts as a sound effect.
Okay. All right. So we're saying, but I would still say, even if you use a mechanical thing as the entire, make it into a musical instrument, which it fills the whole soundtrack of your song, like the typewriter, which is just genius, by the way.
It's true. What's the difference between a typewriter and a piano? You're hitting keys to make a sound. So
no different.
If that's not an instrument, then yeah.
But if you use a jet engine to make a whole song, no.
Well, disqualified. Automatic.
No. Now, cat meows, on the other hand, for a 5-year-old, that into a whole song could be hilarious and adorable. But basically, we're talking about adults doing, more or less adults, teenagers doing, elite and college gymnastics. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. We could do a whole thing about dressing 16-year-olds like 5-year-olds to do gymnastics, which is I think that's beyond pet peeve. That's an actual issue. I feel pet peeve has to be small. Sometimes when people are like, "What's your greatest pet peeve?" It's like, "Oh well, I guess my biggest pet peeve is world hunger." And it's like, shut up. That is not a pet peeve. Get out of here with that.
Oh my God. Oh, Fact Checker wants to add that Van Halen has an engine motor sound that blends into the drums. This is exactly what we're talking about. No.
This is why you're not on the show.
No, if you're
millennial, background fact checker.
If you're Gen or your boomer Gen Z coach wants you to use hair metal from the 80s as your music, then no, it's an absolute no. Unless it's Metallica done with violin, then it's fine.
Oh, okay. I also like that you accidentally said Gen Z instead of Gen X.
Oh, Gen X, that's right. Gen Z. If your Gen Z coach says
old timer Gen Z coach wants you,
Aren't Gen Zs 25 now? My God.
Yeah, I mean they're ancient. Yeah.
Okay. All post whenever they stopped using actual instruments like violin and piano for US compulsory routines.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Going back in time to whenever they started using that electronic horror organ. All of it. Why would anyone do that to the gymnastics community? Let alone the gymnasts. Do that
to the concept of music.
That
music doesn't deserve this behavior.
The U.S. compulsory music starts, and you just immediately want to run and punch things. It's so grating and horrible, and also like it is an insult to children that they couldn't find the beat on more complicated, beautiful music. They can. If you don't, this is why little kids don't learn, like grow up learning to dance, because all the adults around them dumb their dance down, or like bah, 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 dancing like a little kid. Like, don't dumb the music down either. All the people can find a beat. It's not a problem. They can hit the thing. They can count. They're gymnasts. They're fine.
Kids Please are the best at finding a beat because their brains aren't full of all the bad stuff yet.
So
like, yeah, I can focus on this.
Horrible music.
Like, you don't have to pay. You don't have to like pay the bills. So yeah,
I don't even know what compulsory thing is that. It's not even like a electric like keyboard. It's like it's just so horrible.
It's not an instrument found in nature. It's not an instrument. It's not one of the designed instruments. It's its own thing. And I think you named it correctly, a horror organ.
If you have to mine the materials from space, don't use it in compulsory.
don't use it for your compulsory music. Yeah.
Okay. So if we're going to allow these things, then let's go for it. That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to allow these things that are our pet peeves and we can't stand, then this is what I request. Because basically, this is my suggestion for how to get these sound effects banned. Okay. One. Since you can make any sound with your mouth, then just while someone's doing a wolf turn, just continuous fart sound the whole wolf turn around.
Solid.
Because what else would you use a fart sound for? Like, unless you do the little drop queen hand to the side, that could be a fart sound too. Like, oops, I let it out when I squatted.
I mean, honestly, like, want to go viral. That's going to go viral. Like, if you're like desperate to have someone from your college team go viral for a floor routine, you know what people would love to watch and write about and talk about? Farts as music.
And when they interview about it, be like, yeah, IBS is a huge problem. And I wanted to bring attention to it.
Not everything has to have a statement.
But it does if you're using sound effects. That's the whole point. Okay. All right, the other thing that I want to see, if you're going to allow sound effects, if you think sound effects are fine, then let's push the envelope by a sneezing sound right before a triple full, because, no one can do a triple full with their legs together. And it'll be like an homage to all the accidental peeing in gymnastics caused by the limited length of the female urethra.
I don't quite understand this. Why are we sneezing? Because, like, you sneeze and a little pee comes out? Is that what we're doing?
Some people sneeze and pee comes out. Or, some people say after they have a kid.
Why is it a triple full?
Because everyone crosses their legs, and that's the symbol for I have to pee, or I just peed a little when I sneeze.
Got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Of course, a male with a long-ass urethra doesn't get it.
Yeah, I didn't get it. But
male privilege.
It was so complicated and, intelligent that I couldn't follow it, and I needed a syllabus. I needed some Cliff's notes for that idea.
Well, you're welcome. Now you understand when to use the sneeze.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one. Sound effects. A big smoochy kiss sound whenever one of the college routines has an ass slap in it. Just smoochy kiss sound.
That'll go over great.
I mean, if you're gonna allow sound effects, we already had knock, 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 door creaking open while someone unstraddled their legs wide from pipe.
Yeah, that's the one exception of when it's acceptable to use a door sound effect was that, because that was
amazing. Okay, the next one is bonfire sound. Okay. roaring fire sound. Think of that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a routine dedicated to the dangers of rising fascism. And the roaring, and while the roaring fire happens, you start by like ripping pages and throwing books into the fire, and that's the choreography. And then when you talk, as someone interviews, when it goes viral and there's an interview, the gymnast can bring books that are banned or books that have been banned, like and books that talk about fascism, explain it. And Fahrenheit 451, all these, pass them out. Animal Farm, whatever is banned in Florida, pass those out at the meets.
What is the context you are imagining where a gymnast is interviewed about their floor routine and they have time to prepare props for this interview?
When I put the idea out on the show and then someone's like, that's a great idea.
You schedule an interview with them and then you're like, but like, before we start, just so you know, we're not live. We can edit. We can take things out as needed. Did you bring all your books and props?
Like, I was like, Jake Jarman, you're a world champion. Do you want to introduce yourself as Jake Jarman with your nickname? And he was like, what's my nickname again? Air Pirate, Jake. And then he just
can't imagine that a conversation you had with someone 3 years ago for 5 seconds wasn't the very front of their mind.
That was the funniest thing. Anywho,
music, pet peeve, next category, Spotify barf. Which is when anytime you have more than 2 pieces of music together in the same routine, Spotify is barfed, and it's not going to sound nice because your routine is 1.5 minutes, not 20 minutes. So
this isn't a cheerleading competition. Cut it out. Don't Spotify barf.
Get rid of it. Get rid of it out of there. If you're going to have even more than 1 piece of music as your floor routine, you should have to submit a short essay in which you have written about why those pieces of music work together and how they're going to complement each other thematically. At least a short answer question about the reasoning why. And then it has to be approved by the committee. I am the committee, obviously, that is implied. And then you can put more than 1 piece of music together. But that's the only time.
Okay, I agree with this.
You have to have a reason. It can't just be like, here are 2 songs. Because a lot of times it's, here are 2 songs.
I also like this because just like the idea of writing an essay would be enough to never, or a short paragraph, I'm never doing this.
No, yeah.
Work?
So you just get 1 song, because if you have 1 song, you don't have to do any homework.
Now, if it was an oral argument, I would be there all over.
I'll allow that. I'll allow you could submit, you can do it over Zoom. You can do your essay.
Okay, but still, no.
But still,
we're not allowing
to do it. Yeah.
My other category in floor music that I really have a problem with is vocalization discrimination. So, I'm not totally against, like, when people use music from Cirque du Soleil, which I'm like, it generally doesn't go with floor routines because you're not artistic enough. But, and then we immediately know, oh, Cirque du Soleil. But I have some of it's okay, but a lot of it's not. And the things that are my pet peeves are things like a song that says hoo-ha, which if you're not from the United States, that is slang for a vulva. And that is sung over and 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 over during a floor routine. Hoo-ha, hoo-ha, hoo-ha.
Is it slang for vulva or just the female genitals as a concept, as a full unit?
Well, that's a good question. Because
I think it's an excellent question, and we should just forget this gymnastics thing and just have a podcast about this. Oh, wait, we already do. It's called Behind the Scenes on Fridays.
Maybe a fact checker could look up the etymology of hoo-ha.
Fact checker, would you do a Google image search for hoo-ha right now?
Okay, so...
But anyway, the actual point.
Right.
That is... So your complaint here is that that's actually words?
Yeah, it is a word for a right. And it could be a word for anything. What I'm saying is no words. Mm-hmm. And this is a problem. Like when someone says, they use like, hey, huh, ha. But hey is a word, so it shouldn't be in there. Same thing as when, like when someone uses ooh or in their music.
We're going to stop making those sounds right now.
Oh, that's in floor music. Like Simone has
I
something like that in her routine. And then she does like a shushing with the like orgasm sound.
Simone has the like, ooh, that like after the wolf turn like that and then cover the mouth. Yeah.
Cover the mouth. It all falls into this. I'm exaggerating for effect, but it's all like
I'm shocked. This has never happened before, so I didn't know how to handle it.
But like I'm like tired of like the coquettish shushing. Or the, ooh, I have a secret. Like that goes, there's like, there's treatises written on how coquettishness and female sexuality, has been demonized for years. And we just continue it with these floor routines. Like, oh, I have a secret and it's that I'm sex positive. Like that's, I don't care for the coquettishness. Like either your whole routine should be full on coquette as a character, or none of it.
I'm smiley and a little flirty is not a character choice.
Right.
Or at least it's not a good one or not an interesting one.
Right. Yeah. You need to go full like 1920s prostitute of the like vintage era. Just go for that 100%. Sex worker. I'm sorry. There's an era of prostitute that I'm looking for. Like, what era is that?
You're thinking like burlesque type things, right?
Yes. Or what's that show they do in Paris? The Moulin Rouge.
Yeah.
Like, same, right?
That reminds me of a story I have to tell you later. That's not topical for this, but you saying Moulin Rouge does remind me.
Well, now everyone's gonna have to like.
Well, then maybe I'll tell it on Friday or a week from Friday.
Next Friday, because no behind the scenes this week, but next week behind the scenes. Okay, so. All right. The other thing is words in a different language that don't count. I
knew this was coming. Yeah.
And we've talked about this since. Oh, Amy was so mad at us when we brought this up. Like Amy Borman was Simone's floor routine for Rio because it had Yoruba in it. And like if you're in Brazil, like if you're Brazilian, you know Yoruba because the Orisha, all the Orishas that's all Yoruba. It's all candomblé. It's like Afro-Brazilian songs, like it's part of the culture, carnival, like all of it. Like you recognize this stuff. I'm not saying everyone speaks Yoruba. I'm just saying it's recognizable as a language and full sentences. And we were like, why are they fully singing in Yoruba and this is allowed? Because you're not allowed to sing, singing and lyrics in your floor routine. So then Amy had to go and get it specially approved by the FIG and they were like, yeah, it's fine. So I'm just saying, like, I love that there's, songs talking about the Orishas in floor music, but I would prefer if language was language and it was blanket, not allowed, not just like, well, if you're a top FIG competitor language, then we recognize it. So that's all I'm saying.
Thoughts then on just use of voice as instrument in general? Because what's the difference?
Right.
Between sounds and words.
See, that's the thing. There isn't any. If you can allow if you allow one language, but then not another language, then that's not fair. So it should be no, but the voice is vocalization, like the Cirque du Soleil things. Those I'm like, well, it's so weird and clearly not words that.
So like humming.
Yeah.
That would be fine.
Like a whole beatbox, acapella beatbox floor would be awesome. So I'm okay with that. I'm just not, why hasn't anyone done that yet? Who had a full beatbox with no other sounds in it? In the 80s, everyone that had the, everyone had that from Breakin'. Everyone used the Breakin' soundtrack. I mean, without synthesizer. That's what I'm talking about. If only the compulsory music would just do something like that. Like use beatbox synthesizer music, not that horror organ. Okay. My other general... It's not a sound...
It's really a mistake to think that this was one category for floor music pet peeves was one category in this episode rather than its whole own episode, because clearly we have a lot of thoughts about it.
We have so much to talk about with this. Okay, the other one is a lack of sound. So it's like that fakey ending when you're not really done and the crowd starts to clap, and then I feel bad for I am embarrassed for the crowd that they fell for your fake ending. And sometimes, like, so you just can't have, there has to be some sound, and you have to, even if you stop, the music has to keep going, I think, because it just makes me feel, it makes me so uncomfortable, Spencer.
I understand completely.
Yeah.
I think maybe the only reason it doesn't make me uncomfortable is that the only reason you would be fooled by a fake ending is if you didn't know how long floor routines are supposed to be. And then it's like, well, that's your own fault. It's punishment. Like, how do we identify all the basic people in the crowd who don't know the rules, who fell for the fake ending of the floor routine, even though it's only been 54 seconds of a floor routine, because you're not done
It's
yet.
true.
But I completely understand the secondhand embarrassment that comes from that happening. It's how I feel anytime anyone does any like crowd events at a gymnastics meet. Like any of the like games in the crowd with the dads.
Oh, that's why you can't stand it.
That's how that feeling of that embarrassment, that's how I feel the entire time.
Okay. All right. Now I understand why you hate those so much. I have to say,
I don't think that was out of character to begin with. Like, what's something Spencer? You've met me before. What's something Spencer would hate? All of that. Yeah.
Okay. This is the thing. Your next pet peeve is like the staple of every like junior coach. Like everyone who's coaching like Excel or that first level optional, like this is our bread and butter, Spencer, and you're taking it from us.
Well, I feel like you've stolen my thunder here by prompting. Now you've spoiled the illusion that this is organic. This is
people think we have no notes. We don't have a script.
Yeah,
we have notes.
People should think we have no notes. The illusion of the first time. My pet peeve, maybe my biggest pet peeve for floor music, is using music from the climactic scene of a movie soundtrack.
Yeah.
The big fight scene, the big dramatic moment at the end, because that music is designed to be so big for like a theater and like nonstop action, like if it's like a Marvel, whatever.
Literal Godzilla.
Yeah, literal Godzilla, except that's not a thing because Godzilla is not real.
In a movie!
But it's not literal.
How dare you, first of all? Godzilla is a metaphor for tidal waves, and those are real. Thank you very much.
I legitimately thought you were going to say Godzilla is a metaphor for Title IX. Just like, my, like, what's Jessica probably going to talk about? Brain assumptions? Or like Godzilla is a metaphor for Title IX. Any floor routine is always going to feel small by comparison when put with like the fight scene music. And those songs like specifically don't let up. Like there's no moment where that lets up. So there's always going to be part of the floor routine when you're like in the corner before your pass, even if you're like following the FIG rules of not being like standing in the corner forever and being basic, there's going to be that moment where it's just off because the music is big and you're standing there. And it doesn't allow for like changes and variations or like a slow or quiet part of the routine, which should always be, it should be evolving. It should be dynamic and not just like big, big, big.
Yeah, I hear you. I have to say, like for college and elite, yes, I agree. For little kids, they love it. They get so excited and it's like you give them a visual character, but that's fine. You can have your feelings.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to do that. Yeah, maybe not for little kids, because then you teach them that they're not being artistic enough. Okay, I want to, before we move on to our next category, because believe it or not, we do have many more categories. I want to play a lightning round called Peeve or Reprieve, where we find out where you stand on the following topics floor music category. 1.
Ready.
Recognizable popular current songs as floor music.
Yes, but only...
That's not one of the choices. They're Peeve or Reprieve. This game is not called Yes or Peeve, because those don't even rhyme.
Reprieve in a 12-month period.
Okay. Music related to the event's host country.
Peeve.
I agree. Using music that the general gymnastics public associates with an iconic, famous floor routine of the past.
Reprieve if you fucking bring it.
Well, that wasn't, I feel like, is the game called Reprieve if you fucking bring it? You have to either, like, is this yes or no? Because I'm saying I reprieve this one. I think that's fine.
Okay, I will reprieve because sometimes people do a great job. Like Tabitha Yim, Blues for Clock, was you know, right in the categories. I mean, it'll never be like the original, but she did a good job with it. Okay, I'm ready.
Next, legacy routines. So like doing the entire routine that someone else did before.
Reprieve. I love this. I love them.
I'm Peeve.
As long as it's a good one, it can't be like the worst one. Okay. Agree to disagree.
Yeah. Use of animal noises.
Oh. Okay. Pet peeve and less. It goes with okay, so peeve but reprieve if it's like a horse and then you're prancercising and snorting and pawing the ground and your choreography, then that's okay with me. Okay. Especially for littles, it's so cute. Or if you're just making fun and you want to make people laugh, it's a comedy routine, it can work. So I'm going to say it can work reprieve.
This one's hard for me because, like, theoretically I'm like Peeve, but then I'm also like, if we didn't have like Belgian routines with weird insects at the beginning that are so bizarre, like, where would I be?
Bird attacks, right?
Yeah. So it's like, you know, I feel it's hypocritical and irrational of me to say reprieve, but that's what this whole thing is for. Right. The whole concept of gymnastics pet peeves is to be hypocritical. You could just do that and it's fine.
There was a gymnast who did, or he would do them on exhibitions. Like, because I feel like it must have been just in the 70s they discovered that whales like sing to talk to each other. I don't think they knew that before that. So then, like, there was a whole wave of like buy whale songs to put your baby to sleep, and like, you know. And then this guy, Toby, I forget his last name, would do these like a floor routine dressed as like a silver whale. I mean, that's all I can think, because it was like a whole bodysuit that was like reflective, sort of. So I feel like he was supposed to be like a dolphin or a whale, and he did a whole floor routine to the whale songs. I thought it was super weird as a kid watching that. And I was very creeped out. But it was a thing. So I'm just saying it brings attention to the plight of the whales. And so I'm okay with it.
Successfully described the 1970s. I was creeped out, but it was a thing.
But people got the right to vote. That was the 60s or 50s. When did the boomers did the really good thing where they actually like marched so that people that were sent to war would have the right to vote before they could be sent to war? Because before you couldn't vote until you're like 21, but you could be sent to war. So anyway, boomers, something to be grateful for the boomers did. Okay. Floor choreography.
Yeah. Music. I think we've read music's rights. We got that done. Now, choreography. Pet peeve number 1, obviously, mime.
Oh, Spencer hates this so much.
It's, miming a recognizable action, driving a car, for instance, steering wheel. It's like, this is, and the reason it bothers me is that it's very much like the dad jokes of floor choreography. Like, it's annoying and tacky and supposed to be, and I'm not here for it.
Oh, yeah. I will say that there is one routine in particular that it was genius. It was genius in the way that it was put together for this gymnast from Georgia, whose name I'm Abby Stack. Genius, because if you have someone that can't dance at all, give them miming and the sound effects. That's it.
No, because what else? That's like putting a sign on you that says I can't dance. Like wearing it as like one of those sandwich boards. Be like, I'm bad at this. Which is not exactly horrible? What you want to do.
Is the whole routine horrible? Was it a genius choice to try to minimize deductions for a competition? Yes. Am I against it on principle? Yes. If you're trying to win, is this something you could do? Yes. Okay, but I generally agree with you.
My only exception to recognizable actions, miming, is if you're stabbing yourself through the heart, because that's always in style.
Oh my God, Spencer, my last floor routine in my adult meets, I stabbed myself, and then flew around in a circle, pulling out all of my guts on the floor.
Good work. Yeah.
Then fell backwards, jiggled, and died. I mean,
this is why we get along.
Right. Because if you're going to do
that is the correct answer.
Go for it. Yes. Okay. All right. Anything else on the
yes, obviously. I was leaving room for you if you wanted to have a pet peeve about floor choreography, but if not, I have like 50 more, so we're fine.
Posing and not dancing?
Yeah. But like, yeah.
Yeah.
Gimmick concepts, which I know is like people are going to turn on me because I did not like that Barbie routine from BYU last season because the whole concept, like everything is about the concept, not the performance.
Yes, I hear you.
Like it's just about like people are going to laugh at this idea rather than the floor routine that you've performed.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, but I feel like what about the Mario routine?
See, this I feel like reinforces my opinion because well, like I care about Mario more than I care about like anyone I know in real life, and I still don't like it. So I know that I am reinforced in my opinion.
Okay, I hear you. What about the?
Okay, well, I have an important question. I have a question for you. I'm not going to let you have a pet peeve. I just have more questions. So, is it possible to enjoy something and also classify it as a pet peeve?
Yes.
Okay, good, because I have a lot of
You explain my life, Spencer.
Yeah. Because, lots of college teams have like, the teammates will be there on the floor, by the floor doing the choreography along with the gymnast. Sometimes the teammates will have their own supplemental choreography where they're not just doing the routine along with you, but they're reacting to your choreography.
My favorite
which is fun, but also I kind of think is cheating and shouldn't be allowed because that's someone else is helping you with your routine.
No.
Like it's like using an outside prop. It's like maybe you're getting artistry help from someone who's not performing that routine.
No. Disagree completely. It's so great. It's great for the sport. It helps make viral moments. It is the best thing ever. And I want to give a shout out to, I feel like Tasha Smith at Oregon State was the first person I ever saw do this that I can remember. And maybe, I'm sure someone else did this, but it was the first one, like we used to finally start to get videos of things, of meets that weren't on TV, because there was only like one meet on TV back then, like per year in the middle of golf. Anyway, don't we started on the olden days, you guys. Oh, we had it so bad. She did with her team, like, there was the time like the whole team did like the Heisman pose, which I didn't know was the Heisman pose at the time. I just thought she was doing like a, raise a foot and an arm at the same time to say stop. And then there was a time she did the like pull, like tug of war. And then she took a phone call from God with her team would, the phone would ring, her teams would whole answer it. You know what they should have done when they banned chalkography? When OU did it was the greatest thing ever. The whole team should have done it instead. Did they? Am I thinking they should have done that and they actually did?
They had like after it was banned, like after eight. This is AJ Jackson
couldn't do it.
Did they do it on the sidelines? And then they were like, you can't do it. They had a various like other solutions. Like even at nationals, like the Oklahoma parents in the crowd had their like chalk that they were doing with it.
So
they were like, there was like, a subtle protest of not being allowed to do this. Which is another concept I think goes with this, where I loved it and also I completely get it not being allowed.
Yeah. It is allowed though. It's totally allowed, and we should bring it into FIG competition. That's what I'm saying.
They'll love it.
Right.
Oh yeah. Donatella would love that.
Celine Van Herner's floor routine makeup made international news.
Correct.
So do it.
Yeah.
It'll make international news. They'll ban it. International news again. And in the meantime, more publicity for gymnastics. Everybody wins.
And I'm going to say, if you've happened to have qualified to the Olympics, but maybe like, no, you're not going to make the floor final or something, but you're like, I made it to the Olympics and I'm excited to compete. What better way to get yourself talked about than maybe like pushing a rule, pushing a boundary, see if you can get it. Oh man, You know how many like NBC would break in to talk about like the gymnast who's been banned. They would be over the moon to get to talk about that.
Yes. My God, maybe push the envelope with your makeup too. Maybe go full. It's not costume makeup, but you're going full Amy Winehouse with your eye makeup. What about that? Okay.
Okay. Next edition of Peeve or Reprieve for you, Jessica.
Okay, I'm ready.
Where do you stand performing your floor routine to the judges specifically?
I don't mind it. Okay. Reprieve, because if it's a moment, I'm okay with it. If it's a whole choreography, like we're on a stage, not a place where people can watch you in the round, then I'm against it. So Reprieve.
Okay.
Yeah.
When the college teammates do the choreography with their the person who's on the floor.
Yes. Reprieve. Greatest thing ever. I was waiting for some other caveat.
Because the caveat is I'm going to go with Peeve when it's the entire team. Because then I feel like it's not organic or like it's not meaningful. Like if it's a couple teammates and you have a thing, if it's just everyone going through the motions, because like you hear everyone does the choreography.
You're against it.
Basically, yes. Because, like, you hear this music 900 million times. You see this routine 900 million times in training. You know all the moves. When it becomes just rote and you're just doing it because this is what we do. We all are here and we do our teammates' choreography. Then it's, like, mandatory. And I think mandatory is the enemy of artistry. So if it feels like we're doing this because we have to, then I don't like it.
Oh, God, that's so you, Spencer. If someone tells you to do the group choreography on the sideline, then I hate it, which is fine. You do you. I understand.
What a lovely impression for me, too. How dare I be myself and have an opinion that I have?
But the thing is, like, we both work so well together because we hate other people telling us what to do.
Yeah,
except
I know.
When I like it, it's fun, like a group dance. Group dances are fun. Okay.
But if someone tells you to do some mandatory long division, someone's going to change your tune.
Forget it. Wait, so you're against the kick the corner and one teammate flies backwards and dies? That's okay. No, that's okay because it's one person.
I'm against it because that person is participating in your routine.
It's too choreographed. Okay, so that's
no. It's not that it's too choreographed. It's that you are using like a
prop,
a crutch.
Okay, a crutch.
It's a choreographic crutch. That's what I'm gonna say.
All right, that's fine. Choreographic crutch. I mean, it is, but I still like it.
Next category, with a college thing that the whole team does, like a gator chomp or flash the U.
Hate. The pet peeve.
Okay, so what is the difference between loving that everyone's doing the choreography and hating that thing?
Because it's unique to that person's routine as opposed to everyone doing the same exact thing in their own routines.
Okay.
Rationale. I've got it.
Lightning round, Peeve or Reprieve, crowning yourself.
Pet peeves. No. Over. Nobody better do that for 20 years. It is done. Over. Forget it.
Okay.
I will lose my mind if I see someone crown themselves again.
Are there others like crowning themselves that you would put in similar category? Other sort of choreographic bits?
That are like... Oh, God.
That are in the same category of crowning yourself, like you're over it and you don't want to see anyone do it ever again.
No, yes, there are, but basically they all fall under some kind of miming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, this is miming too. It's just not a recognizable action.
Yes.
That every day, how you just walk around every day putting on crowns.
I mean, which you should. You do you. Every morning when you wake up, I want you to crown yourself and be like, I am whoever, Nadia, Progenova, whatever. But yeah.
Okay. We have maybe the most important category yet to do, Pet Peeve Skills.
Oh, wait, hold on. One second. We have a fact check. 1971, 18-year-olds were granted the right to vote. Thank you, boomers. Okay.
Now can I talk about
Now I'm ready.
pet peeve skills, but I have a rule. You can't say wolf turns because we're done with that at this point.
No, those are
cliche. Over. We're done. Complaining about a wolf turn is worse than wolf turns. I've discarded it. Done.
We covered fart sound effects, whoopee cushions, so we're done with that portion. Yeah. Okay. What is your first?
First is turning leaps. Anything more than a half turn. Half turn can be okay. But any turn after the split position has been achieved, like, and then you're turning on the way down to complete the element, I don't think that's in my pet peeve category, because testing how much you can wrench your body around on the way down after a split is not a dance element.
Even on beam?
Yeah. Like, if you achieved, like, you split, and then you're like, let me twist on the way down. You know what? That sounds like an acro element. Like, oh, let me twist 3 times in a salto? That's an acro skill. So, you know, it's not a dance element. That's not what we're looking for here. I hate them all.
Well, I disagree with you on that.
Okay.
Because there's an exception to this. And that is when, and there's been some gymnasts who've done this beautifully, which is when you do the turning leaps in a series. So it's a coup jeté entraînant. That is beautiful. And I love it. And I also love just a chassé full turn. Oh, there's no leap in it. And like a beautiful fouette or a tour jeté, like a real one, like ballet style, the kind they're compulsory, is not the kind that, you know, the elites do. I
would like to point out that what you are showing, the example that you were showing, is obviously perfect and beautiful and not what I was talking about at all.
Right. So I'm saying there's an exception.
That's not an exception. It's the completely different category.
All right.
That's not a split element where you're turning on the way down.
There is, but it is. You're turning the whole time.
Also, I said
on the way down
more
and
than
on
a
the way
half
up.
turn. You're only ever doing a half turn at a time here.
All right, that's true. I'll give you that. Okay,
obviously,
but anyway, it's beautiful.
Obviously, just something you wanted to show, and you were going to shoehorn it into this conversation, no matter what.
I just
even
wanted
though it
to
didn't
show
apply. Yeah.
Grit Hoffman of East Germany and Utah, because I love her so much, and she's like one of those few gymnasts who competed until she was like 27 somehow, and I just love her. So, and we should see more of that kind of leap in gymnastics.
I have no problem with it.
Okay, mine are a jump to straddle with front support on as a freaking beam mount. So I was going to say jump to split, but I love a dick mount. Don't like a dick mount is great. Everyone loves a dick mount. It's a crowd pleaser. We're fine with that, which is a switch jump, switch leap, land, and split on the beam. Those are great. Also, so fun to talk about, and I love it when the announcers have to say dick mount. So another plus.
They don't have to. That's always.
But they should. But my skill pet peeve.
Okay. Yeah, and that's just because it's basic. The jump straddle.
Yes.
Yeah, just because.
And you don't have to really straddle. Like you can if someone dick mounts the beam and straddle, I will be so stoked. Like if someone literally jumps into a straddle on top of the beam without hand support, I will sing it, praise it for the ages.
Yeah, that's a different thing.
That's a totally different thing. And I'm not talking about where you do a little baby, you jump backwards over the beam. You basically Tkachev the beam from a stand. So you're standing with your butt facing the beam. You jump backwards, straddle over, and land in front support. That's cool. It's hard, too. You think it's easy, and then you try it, and you slam onto your back over and over and over, Spencer.
Are you speaking from experience? It sounded like there was some experience.
Speaking from experience.
I feel like if you have hand support on the beam and you're straddling, those legs better not be touching the beam. That better be a clear support.
Right. The other thing is you guys, pet peeve on beam. It is not the first era of gymnastics. It is not the Corbett era of the first flip of gymnastics. We are so far back from that. Layout step outs on beam. I'm putting bunny ears around those quotes. Layout step out. We need to either call them what they are or not give them credit anymore. Because they are a whip back, step down. Whip back, step out. That's what people are doing. Whip backs. They're doing back handspring, whip back into another whip back. They are not layouts. And how can you say you have to a 2-foot layout, you have to be in, perfectly straight and pass through 45 degrees to get credit, but you can do these whip backs in a row and they get credit? No.
I completely agree with you. I also very much don't like that back handspring, layout step out is the same value as back handspring, back pike, or back handspring, back tuck, which is so much harder to do as a series.
Yes! That's why nobody does it.
Yeah, it's way hard. Unless you can't do back handspring, layout step out as a series because you're broken.
Right, and
that's the only reason you would ever not do it.
Whipbacks is like the first flip you learn as a kid, like not an aerial or a whipback. Because if you can do a back handspring, you just go a little harder and skip your hands. I'm not saying it's good, but it's like so easy to do. And like obviously, I'm not saying a layout step out on a whipback step out, but I'm just going to start calling them whipback step out now. Let's start a revolution.
Do it.
Okay,
you're changing the world. Okay, I'm going to say pet peeve skills, Baranis, just in general.
Barani? That's how we're pronouncing it now? Barani?
Now, you have mispronounced this your entire life, is what it is. An Italian name. It's a Barani.
Is that where it comes from?
Yes.
Named after...
You have always said, you and many gymnasts who only heard this word, heard it, but never saw it written down, will say Branny.
But it is named after... Who's it named after?
Barani. An acrobat.
But what's the first name?
I'll find out.
Okay. Well, now I'm only going to say it with the Italian accent. Like I love saying Chile because it's so now Barani.
Alfonso Barani.
Oh my God. I'm obsessed with a Barani now.
No, well, I hate it. Especially on beam. I don't think it looks good on anybody, but any context, a front salto, half turn, tucked position. You could also have a piked one in a layout version, but the origin would be tucked. Hate it.
You don't love it when people do their tumbling pass and then jump and then nose hairs are touching the carpet and they just flip over and touch the beat
beautiful.
Again
it's gorgeous. It's so elegant and I love it so much.
A Barani. All right. I would never have thought that a Barani upset you so much.
I mean, I certainly talked about it when Simone had one in her beam routine a lot.
Well, you did. That's true.
That destroyed me.
It destroyed you. Okay. For me, full turns where you do not finish in releve and hold a position with your other leg in a distinct position, not flapping around. Either move it the whole time and keep moving it while you're in releve, or hold it somewhere and leave it there while you stand in releve. This is not level 3. If you can't do a full turn and end in releve, it's time to go back to compulsories. Don't get me started. I know it's scary when your foot gets bigger. Believe me, I have spun right off the beam before, but we must preserve the integrity of the full turn. If you can't do it, do a side roll, do a forward roll, do any roll. Don't do a full turn. If you can't do it and finish it, roll. Oh. Exception if you're running out of it into a flip or a leap. But you better be in releve. This is the only thing I believe I've ever spit while discussing the show.
It's definitely not the only time that's ever happened. Yeah, I mean, so that is one of those things in college gymnastics that is in the category of deductions that are supposed to be taken that never are for college routines, would be full releve throughout your full turn requirement.
Yeah.
What we're saying is like a way to separate scores more in college gymnastics would be, a good example.
To use all the numbers, for example, all the numbers at your disposal.
Even 3, 5.
I always deduct for this. Always. Because it's a deduction. Okay.
Is that why?
Yes.
Next, cat leaps, even good ones. I don't like it. I mean, obviously, most cat leaps are like not cat leaps. They're just like scooting along, which is, I think it's awkward even when you do it right. I'm going to say. It's one of those things where it's like, I see that you're doing it well. This is not appealing. I feel like that about a lot of difficulty, where it's supposed to be like, aren't you so amazed and impressed that they're doing this like amazingly difficult skill? And I'm like, but it's not nice to look at. Therefore, it should be an A element.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I feel like if you don't have a background in dance, skip the cat leap. But I mean, I also understand, because like this is how like coaching, high school gymnastics, when there's like level 10s to people who've never done gymnastics before. This is how you sneak a thing in there. You're like, oh, it's a cat leap, judges, right? Yeah, okay, everybody nods. All right, let's get your start value. Like
slightly step in front of yourself and your foot's up a little bit. Yeah, it's cat leap, right? You can.
We did it.
My cats have never done anything that elegant before, so it's better than that. So
how dare you? Okay, for me, another skill pet peeves.
Yeah.
Weilers.
Weilers. I'm going there with you.
Weilers are, the free hip, but forward.
Yeah.
You can do it the best. Like Georgia Godwin's new skill. Like it's the Weiler full, right? So hard, so impressive. All credit to anyone could do this, because terrifying to whip yourself around. It always looks like you're just whipping yourself in an uncontrolled fashion, and at any time could end up on the ceiling. It just never looks controlled. It always looks scary and weird, no matter how excellent and in command of the skill you are. So Weilers. Leave them in men's gymnastics where it all looks like that, so it doesn't stand out as dramatically.
It's perfectly acceptable to be like, I guess I know this is hard. I don't like to look at it with my eyes.
Yes.
Yeah.
The other thing is the FIG code in general with skills.
FIG code in general. My pet peeve is everything.
Where you twist doesn't matter. A full in and a full out. No, I don't. No, I can't with that. It's very upsetting to me.
And you feel like skills like a full out should be like a
harder.
letter grade more than a full in.
Right. Because physics.
Oh.
Like the easy thing to understand, an object in motion, bubbity-bub, whatever the rest of it is. Harder to do a twist after you're already an object in motion.
That is the first law of physics. Yeah.
Right? Thank
Harder
you.
to do a full out than a full in.
Right.
Oh, Burns' first law. I like it.
This is how I passed my physics classes. I was like, so in gymnastics, that means, oh yeah, when you're already in the air, it's harder to turn. Got it. Okay.
Got it.
Pass physics, guys.
Lightning round.
Yeah.
Peeve Reprieve skills. Straddle up to handstand versus straight body cast.
Reprieve.
I'm Reprieve too. I prefer a straddle up to handstand.
Me too.
To a straight body cast.
Right? Yeah.
The sheep jump. Famously loathed by the Women's Technical Committee because they downgraded it to a C, so no one would do it anymore.
Peeve so hard.
Okay. Tell me about it.
Because, first of all, even when it's done well, it's just unhealthy. It's just not good for you.
I understand. Yeah. To do it correctly is also a problem.
Right. I mean, there's there's just so few people that can do it correctly. And even when they do, I don't want to watch you get punched in the back, basically. I'm already watching you do gymnastics. It's bad enough. But I don't want that for you. So, and it's never pretty. Even the people that do it and slam their feet on their head and they're a perfect circle, it's still always fugly.
Next, the concept of dance element combinations.
Reprieve, because there was a time when they were done beautifully and actually connected. This nonsense now with a chassé in the middle can get out of here.
That's Peeve for me as well. And on beam, because I feel like I'd rather see two leaps well done than try to do them quickly after each other, which is also not a combination. That's just two skills close to each other. Anyway, next, the banning, quote unquote, of the Corbett and Mukina on bars. The feet on the bar, back dive off to grab the bar.
I am Reprieve with this because I actually think that they're not swinging. You have to stand up and then do a thing to swing. And so I feel like stopping the whole standing up on the bar is a good thing. So
I agree. Feet on the bar. I agree with the FIG code, not like the US level 10 code. Like feet on the bar is always unacceptable. That's what the
unless
other
it's
no. Well, standing on the bar, like putting your feet on a toe on, fine. Right. But like standing on the bar, that's what the other events are for.
Like a squat on. No.
Yeah.
Exactly. Other events are for standing.
Squat ons are when you made a mistake and you fell and you need to get back up onto the high bar. That's what a squat on is for. That's not for a routine.
A squat on's a compulsory skill because it's a progression to a cast handstand. That is the only reason it is there, and because you have to get on the high bar somehow now that it's so freaking far away. But yeah, I agree. I think this is the right call. And also it totally divorces from the old era of when the uneven bars were just men's P bars with one higher and one lower, and they should just stand there and do a scale on the bar.
Yeah.
Oh,
but I will say I'm not in favor of banning it because of safety. I don't think that's not the reason that it shouldn't be allowed, is how I feel.
The only one that we can all agree with that was correctly banned for safety are rollout skills on floor.
Yes.
Double flipping, because it's not
or
banned.
That time they didn't let Igor do a vault.
A triple, right. Because they were like, no. We don't want to see both of your kneecaps exit from your body. So please don't do those anymore. Yeah, I agree. This holiday season, I want to give my loved ones the gift that makes them feel special and unique, just like the relationship that we share. That's why I'm giving everyone I care about Storyworth. Storyworth is an online service that helps you and your loved ones preserve precious memories and share stories for years to come. It's a thoughtful and meaningful gift that connects you to those who matter to you the most. Every week, Storyworth emails your relative or friend a thought-provoking question of your choice from their vast pool of possible options. Each unique prompt asks questions you've never thought to ask, like, what's the bravest thing you've ever done in your life? Or if you could see the future, what would you want to find out? After 1 year, Storyworth will compile all your loved ones' stories, including photos, into a beautiful keepsake book that you'll be able to share and revisit for generations to come. I plan to read these to my little cousins and my nieces and nephews and have them around the house so people can see the legacy. Reading these weekly stories will help connect you and your loved ones no matter how near or far apart you are. Storyworth is how I found out that multiple members of the family, Spencer, were under surveillance.
Obviously, this tracks.
One for working against strip mining in West Virginia when my grandfather was in federal government, and another had their phone tapped by a jealous ex. Yeah. So if you want to find out stories like these, Spencer, what do they do?
With Storyworth, I'm giving those I love most a thoughtful, personal gift from the heart and preserving their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/GymCastic and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/GymCastic to save $10 on your first purchase.
Okay. Next up is
Pet peeves in competition. I'm going to start with the college salute, which is saluting at the end of your routine with the wildest back lean, ponytail, whip in the butt.
Yes.
Nope.
Yeah.
Nope. It's out. I hate it. Overly exaggerated, affected behavior like this should be reserved for your floor routine about the War of 1812, and it should not find its way elsewhere into a gymnastics competition. Like, doing too much is for in your floor routine only, and your beam choreography if you so are inclined.
If you're doing beam right.
If you're doing beam right.
Yeah. Has anyone tried to turn in a gymnastics in any way as a book report or thing for school? Like, did anyone say this is what I'm enacting?
This
art
is my
class?
performance. Oh, that would be good. Yeah.
Right?
Like if you had to do like a presentation about some sort of, treaty or battle or something, and you had to do a class presentation, you're supposed to have visual aids. Floor routine's a good visual aid.
Right. And you could just show it and be like, this is when Custer rounded up everybody. This is the sad part is the Trail of Tears. This is I don't know. I'm mixing up my...
Yeah, great, really fun examples.
What war is fun?
No, none of
it. Okay. Mine, broken wrist salutes. We can never... When you salute and your wrist is pointed down, when your fingers are pointed anywhere but at a straight up or at a slight angle, like this is the only way.
Must continue the line of the wrist.
Right. Not break the line of the wrist. That is incorrect. It's all incorrect. It's horrible. If you can make shadow puppets with your wrist, you're doing it wrong.
Everything you've ever done is incorrect.
That's right.
That should be the first page of the code of points.
This is like why when you were first day of being a college gymnast, it just fix everyone's wrists. That's day one. I wouldn't even recruit anyone that had.
Whoa.
If you don't have a good salute, where's the integrity in the rest of your life? You know what I mean? Character matters.
Yeah.
If you can't see that it's horrifying, how am I ever going to show you?
How am I going to teach you any life lessons?
About the War of 1812.
Yeah, really.
Okay.
Really. Okay, next for me, tapping the end of the beam with your foot before your dismount. Tapping the beam cap with the top of your foot. I don't know why it bothers me. It shouldn't. It makes no sense that it bothers me. This is not a logical thing. I just hate it.
Isn't it banned? You can't. Isn't it a deduction now in FIG and NCAA?
I hope so.
I think in both you can't do it anymore. I understand the purpose because falling off the back of the beam accidentally is a real.
That is a real thing that happens.
Yeah,
which is why could be another pet peeve that I didn't put in. Leaving the springboard there on beam after you mounted, because what if you accidentally step off the back?
Right, and bounce back onto the board, which we have seen. Okay, you guys. During a competition or any time, not holding your ending pose for 3 seconds. How do you expect to absorb all of the admiration and applause for your routine if you don't hold still? You can't absorb it properly into your soul. How you only get so long to do competitive gymnastics in college or FIG level, stand there for 3 seconds of your whole freaking life. I also always take a deduction for that. Also, hop-a-thon saluting, especially in college.
Yeah.
Hold freaking still.
Well, this is the new rule for next season.
I love it. Thank God. Because every time deduct. Every hop.
You have to hold your ending on every event.
It's like,
not just floor.
I mean, think of, if you don't care about the integrity of the sport, then at least care about all the celebration injuries that happen in college gymnastics from someone being too excited and spraining an ankle because they didn't hold still. It's safety first, everybody.
I'm going to say sometimes this is also on the teammates because they are too quick to rush to celebrate and haven't let the person who actually did the routine in this occasion have their moment. They're already rushing onto the floor. Like maybe sometimes before the routine has ended, which should be, you have to redo the whole thing.
Yeah. Start the whole meet over.
You have to start your routine from scratch because they ran on before it was, your teammates crossed the line of out of bounds before or even touched the floor cover before your routine was over.
Yeah, I agree.
On that note, do I have more? Jessica, what a ridiculous question. Of course I have more. That the taped out of bounds lines on the 4-incher have never once been straight. No one has ever taped lines that have been correct. They're always squiggly or off or placed wrong or something. / that there's no oversight of this. That you could just make your own out of bounds. Like, come on, is this a sport or not? Are there rules or not? You could just, I've decided that out of bounds is here. Sure, good job.
So basically, you think that someone should have a, what is it called? You should have a some sort of chalk line. You know the thing you put it and then it has a line and then you go to the line and it leaves a chalk line, so it's perfectly straight.
No,
it's a thing in building.
Okay.
A snap line, so you can make sure it's like a protractor and chalk lines combined had a baby, and it's called a snap line.
I think. Stay with me on this. If the meet has to provide like springboards, you have to provide already taped 4 inchers.
See, you would think that that could be done, but the problem is everyone's mat is at a different position. Yes. So you can't have one universal mat.
What if you have 10 options?
Yeah. So it's just another, like, how much is a mat? Like a competition. Well, like I don't know, like what are they? $800 to $1,000. So just $10,000 in tape mats.
NCAA is $1 billion,
$3 billion organization. Plenty of money for that. You can use your 10% discount off.
Really?
At Norbert's.
Come on, guys.
Yeah,
let's do it.
No problem.
Yeah, but yes, but like realistically, there should be some oversight on your taped mat before the routine starts.
My biggest pet peeve of any competition is that we can't see the full judges' scores.
Well, obviously, yes, correct.
Or in FIG that they don't make the artistic scores separate, even though they're taken separate and they're in a separate place. Like, just show us the artistry scores, then and how that goes into the E score, and then the difficulty. All right, how about the actual meet in the meet?
In the meet venue?
Yes.
Okay. Introducing everyone's club when they are introduced at nationals.
Marketing. As
though they are representatives of an organization rather than their own person.
What about they introduce them by their state?
No. Unless you were competing by state, if there were like a national championship where like California against Louisiana, then sure. But because then you're on that team. But if it's an individual competition, you're not on your club's team. You're just there individually.
To that end, I have a real problem with, I guess the only I just don't like that there's a national anthem before.
Well, yeah.
Meets, like, obviously it's like too nationalistic, and especially in NCAA, because there's athletes from all over the world. I think it's so inappropriate to have, it's also just weird. But I
mean, obvious, like, well-worn territory, but the United States uses the national anthem way too much.
Way too much.
Like,
it's shocking.
Calm it down.
Right. It's like North Korea and the US play the national anthem.
And when they play it when like at like camp verification or camp selection meets trials, it's like we're just here in a gym. Like,
right.
Cool off.
The thing during the meet that drives me nuts is sitting in a straddle like tiny children. Like, if you have graduated from high school,
if you have graduated from elementary school.
Yeah. I mean, no bow. I mean, middle school, you're still sort of in the, and if you're past trick or treating.
Middle school's always horrible in every way. All behavior, it doesn't count. It's just just throw it away and burn it.
No behaving like children. It's just, no, it's not a good look.
Also, they don't do this nearly as much anymore, which is good, but having plants around on the podium or near it gives like dog show. Like, it feels like this, like the floor exercise around the apparatus is decorated like, oh, welcome to the Kennel Club dog show. Actually, everything about gymnastics meets, now that I'm saying it and the words are coming out of my mouth, is like a dog show. Like, imagine in a normal sport having all of the competitors led out in a straight line with like a section leader holding like a placard. Imagine if you had to you told a basketball team that for their intros they had to walk out like in a straight line behind someone holding like a card that says "Go here, idiots" or whatever that says. I know the card says like beam, but what it means is like, you're so stupid, we don't even assume that you can follow basic instructions on walking, so you have to line up behind this card. That's what that means. And yeah, so it's awful. Yeah, / Also, when the college team zones during the postseason are called corrals, like for livestock.
Yes.
And are designed to look like things for livestock.
And people always standing on the chairs and falling off those freaking folding chairs. Can't we get non-folding chairs? These gymnasts are already injured enough.
That technology does not exist. No, we can't.
For me, it's when only women hand out medals. I mean, obviously women should be in charge of everything, but when it's like the medal ceremony and suddenly like the people that are just standing there with a tray are all female instead of it being both genders or, you know, mixed, whatever. When it's just like, oh, standing, looking pretty and serving things is still relegated to the female of the species. Oh, hate it.
What about if
they're wearing tie-dye bags, trash bags?
It's
like Belgium?
Like if for WAG, it's women holding the metal trays, but for MAG, it's men holding the metal trays, or switched?
I don't really care who. I would prefer it if it was like men give the men medal, women give the women medals. But as long as it's everyone's doing it, it's not one-sided, then
I do think it's a missed opportunity when they have like executive no one's ever heard of handing out the medals. And I know it's all political nonsense, but it's like you should have the medalists from like 10 years ago hand out the equivalent medals and maybe like give a little speech about like, this was, you know, you have honored this, you remind me of blah, blah, blah. That would be great. Just for the women. Don't do it for men. No one cares. I don't want to hear that.
I mean, look how stoked the gymnasts were when it was like Nastia and Sean were out there giving out medals, and how like Sean had everyone cracking up, and like, or when Alicia does it and Memo, like it's so cool to have one of your idols giving you a medal. Like it's such a great thing to do. So I love that.
But the only thing is you have to have some like year spans in between, because otherwise Simone's just going to be giving herself medals, which would also be great. Like, wouldn't that be great? It's like last year's gold medalist presents this year's gold medalist, but both of them are Simone. So she like gets down off the podium and then has to like get the medal, and then she starts putting it on nothing. So then she runs around and is the other person and accepts the medal. Like, I think she would nail that. So actually, yes, I'm in favor of it.
She would do it for 7 quads in a row. Oh, I love that idea. The other thing is wearing shoes on any equipment, but especially the carpet, the floor carpet. It's so disgusting. This is where people they lay down, they put their hands on it, their faces are on it. It's disgusting to wear shoes on the floor. It's so disrespectful. It's so gross. I cannot even. And don't even start on heels. Oh, I've taught biggest pet peeve, heels. Like I was looking it up today on the Tumble Track site. I was like, how much is the competition, like the Spieth competition mats? Oh, almost $1,700 for one of those mats. And you're just going to walk across it and put freaking holes in it?
If you're willing to do that, why not provide 10 for the meet?
Exactly.
You're just going to walk across with heels anyway. What's the solution in terms of like, where are you taking your shoes off? I mean, I know the gymnasts like they don't have shoes on, so no one should have to. But like all the employees and everyone, the volunteers, everyone who has to walk around on the equipment, like, is there a shoe repository? Like,
by
cubby
the stairs.
Holes by the stairs. Are you providing little booties for everyone to then put on?
No booties. Those are too slippery.
Some people's bare feet are also gross.
Yes, you shouldn't be in bare feet. You should have socks on.
Some people's socks are also gross.
Yeah, well, they should have clean socks and have washed their feet that day.
Are you providing like, is it like bowling alley rules? Like, these are the shoes for you?
No. Okay. You go by the stairs to the podium.
Yeah.
You leave your shoes there. You walk up to the podium. You can put your shoes back on or leave them off, whatever. But no shoes. It's disgusting. But especially not heels. If it were my gym, I would. Oh, no water bottles on the floor at all because they're a hazard. And absolutely no heels. And if you do, $2,000 fine. Plus shipping, obviously. But it has to go to $2,000.
Plus shipping for your fine. What are you shipping where?
The mat! You're shipping the brand new
shipping
mat!
The mat. Like, your fine for your behavior is $2,000 plus shipping. Yeah, that's Jessica's Ticketmaster rule. It's like
Matt's almost $1,600, so surely the shipping, unless you get a great deal and spend enough money through Norbert's Tumble Track, whose holiday sales are on right now. But I literally looked it up, and I was like, oh my god, the shipping's got to be at least another $300-400.
Yeah, I thought you were just like doing like some service charges on there. like pain and suffering, a little bit of, extra 15% for,
because I'm having to write you this ticket for coming to the gym.
Exactly. I had to like order a new one. That's, my time. Are you charging for your work time?
Right. All right. Do you have any pet peeves about the terminology used?
I can't even imagine me having a pet peeve about terminology. Yes, and I've decided that my current pet peeve about terminology, sparked by some people who have written into the show, is calling them in-bars.
Yeah, that's a stupid name. Makes no sense.
In-bar should be reserved for, because it's confusing, because in-bar also means like a single bar release between the bars.
Right.
Like an in-bar game.
Change it.
That's what in-bar should be.
Yeah.
We need to just go with clear pike for the circle.
Oh, a straddle pike or a clear pike? Why don't we just have a pike stalter or a straddle stalter?
You can do that too.
A clear pike. That sounds fun though.
I like clear pike. I'm saying I'm going with clear pike.
Okay. I'll go with
pike stalter is also, you will hear that also. In bar is easiest and fastest to type, which is relevant for me, but also not helpful, and I don't like it.
All of you people, like Lauren at the Gymternet and you at the Balance Beam Situation, are responsible for making in-bar happen.
That's correct.
It's all your fault.
I will take the blame. And we are responsible for, it's really nice to call a Stalder Shaposh a Chow, even though it's not technically named after Amy Chow, but sometimes it used to be, and sometimes it is, but it's not in the code, but it's so much shorter and so much easier to just be like Chow.
Yeah. Shockingly, my pet peeve of terminology is calling a back dive mount a candle mount.
Oh, you've never mentioned that before.
Makes no sense. Nobody knows what that is. Nobody knows what a candle mount is. Back dive, you immediately can imagine someone's diving backwards onto the beam somehow. Makes total sense.
Back dive does not account for how we need to see a handstand position.
A dive passes through. It's the movement that gives you the understanding, not the stupid rule that's added on after the initial movement. So
I completely understand. I also really like candle mount as terminology because it sounds all like Victorian. Like you should be like wearing a like old timey night hat, one of those big long ones. It's like a big sock, and carrying your like candlestick through the dark hallway into the study to find the dead body.
This is okay. First of all, every time you say candle mount, all I imagine is like the years and years of teaching kids hollow position and then like having them like holding their feet up while they hold it on their upper backs and being like, and coming to like a certain places in the country where they call it candle. And I'd be like, it's a banana shape, hollow. This makes sense. People understand. I don't understand this. But also every time you say it, it makes me think of that, that very like that bestiality Disney movie where she loves to read and it's supposed to be ugly to look like a that one.
Yeah. That bestiality Disney movie took me a second.
There
are a lot of animals in these movies.
It's true, but not that make out with each other. So, but what's the one where the guy, there's the little character and he's snobby and he's a candle?
Yeah, that's Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, that's who I think of. Whoever that candle is. Yeah, every time you say a candle mount.
Yeah, you should. Well, me too.
He's on fire. He's stuck like that. He was cursed. He can't uncandle himself. It's just, I have terrible associations with that. All right. Do you have any un-pet peeves?
Yeah, I feel like we should leave it on a higher note because... No, I'm saying like, doing our un-pet peeves because we're not going to do an episode next week. So we should have like some positives, even though I've had a great time talking about our negatives.
I know, it's so fun.
So un-pet peeves, aka things you like, but I can't bring myself to say like that. So it's just an un-pet peeve. I just have pet peeves and un-pet peeves. I don't have things I feel positively about. leg shape originality during handstand elements on beam is one of my favorite things.
Yes.
Because you have an opportunity with these loose legs to do whatever you want. Shapes, positions, feet, bend, straight. You have so many options and it's great. It's just it's not like some big thing. It's very doable and it just adds delightful visual artistry to the routine.
I love an ode to a seal. Straddle, clap your feet together, back to straddle. So fun. Or unfold back into straddle. So artistic. There's so many options upside down, not just split, straddle, double stag. There's so many more things you can do.
So many more things.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah. Do you have any or should I just keep going?
Keep going, because I basically agreed with all of yours. So I was like, all right.
Floor music that begins with 2 or 3 seconds of silence. I really like to just be like, everyone settle in, pay attention to me. We're going to take a moment and now the performance will begin. I actually want this in real life. But you when you enter a room, you can't talk for 3 seconds. You have to let everyone get accustomed to the fact that the topography of the room and the scenario has changed. No eye contact or talking for 3 seconds, and then you can begin would really help me out a lot.
Would you also like the house lights to come down and then the curtain to open and then
that's a bonus. I'm not going to ask for it, but sure.
Oh, this is the next thing that the college teams can do. Bring a little red carpet and roll it out to the floor and walk to it to salute.
Yeah, how has no one done this before?
Oh my God, I love that. Or hold up a little curtain with a red velvet curtain, and when the judges are ready, gymnasts walk through.
You walk through it onto the floor. Yeah. So many good ideas.
Guys, this episode is a gold mine for pissing off the FIG.
For free ideas.
Yes.
Come on,
all the things we're helping you do to go viral this season, provided by GymCastic. Okay.
Really? Next, when you hold your cast handstand position for 9 hours for no reason. The best.
Why do they hate Shilese? She could stay up there the whole day. It's so hard to do. Let people hold a handstand.
I love it.
Rhythm schmithem.
Next, distinctive vault runs. Love it. You should be able to blur out someone's face and I know who it is just on your vault run. Doesn't have to be there are many different varieties of distinctive. Doesn't have to be one thing. You could be prancy on tiptoes like Vanessa Zamaripa, where it was are you even walking on the ground or is this just air? Or you could be like Colleen Deviard doing her pole vault high kick. This is what I'm talking about.
Yes. So many distinctive runs. I agree.
There should be the artistry on vault is possible is what I'm saying. And you should have to play a character in your vault run.
Most gymnasts are thinking right now, they're like, my vault character is please let me live.
My vault character is shut up.
I'm terrified.
Carlotta, shut up. And she's not happy right now. There's your character. Deal with it. All right. I have some Un-Pet Peeve skills also that are actually good. I came up with 3, but there are 3. I have 3 skills that I like in gymnastics. I'm a forward tumbling queen in general, but front piked tumbling I think is visually my favorite of any direction shape. Like the Omelianchik vault, round off half on front pike, a Dos Santos on floor. Really any Arabians, but especially piked. Great. It's the best one.
Yeah, I agree. I wish there was more. My Un-Pet Peeve was I loved when Boganskaya would do a split on high bar and then do her toe on dismount. Just so pretty. I love that.
I will also say, speaking of bars, hop full. Love a hop full. Especially directly connected to a double layout dismount. Love it.
It looks fun, right? It's like a little sprightly jaunt before you're
sprightly.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. Also, Markelov Horkina, I think is an underutilized same bar release on bars that I like a lot. swing backward, straddle over the bar, half turn to catch.
Yep.
So many Jaegers, so many Tkachevs. Like it's an option.
It's a def for me. God, I love a def.
Mm-hmm.
A def is just so cool, so hard to do, so exciting to watch. Yeah.
I will also put
swing full turn, like back swing.
Yeah.
Let go of the bar, full turn, grab it again, or forward swing, 1.5, back swing to a pack or a whatever you want to do. It's just fun. Like it
maintains the rhythm,
right?
Like it's everything is swingful. I mean, that's how I feel. Put it in this category: back-to-back tumbling passes, immediate tumbling pass, immediate rebound into your next diagonal. Love it.
Yeah.
Attitude turns. I'm putting in there.
An attitude turn. So beautiful.
We need like there are other turn positions. Like there are other options that are not regular, wolf, Y spin, or horizontal. There are other positions. Like scorpion, back attitude.
Or literally just turn all the way out, bend your knee, and point your toe to the other knee. Just all the way turned out. It's so pretty, and everybody can do that because it's only one leg you have to turn out. It's just simple. Oh,
so we fixed it. That's what we're saying. Yeah. Solid. Done.
All right. If you guys have thoughts on this, please send them to us at GymCastic@gmail.com, because when we come back for behind the scenes after the Thanksgiving break, we can discuss all of your thoughts on your pet peeves. But now we have some contributions from you guys, the listeners, who wanted to tell us. We called for submissions a while back, and we have a couple of these. We wanted to know, you trained on a what? Shall we begin?
Sure. Anna says, growing up, I trained at a YMCA through level 9. It was a small space. First off, 2 sides of the floor were against walls. The floor was a foam block floor, which I didn't mind training on. However, when we competed on spring floors, I felt out of control. Secondly, we vaulted into a corner off of a 60-foot runway. The fact that I did souks there gives me so much anxiety now. It was incredibly dangerous, but the most notable aspect of this gym was that there was not enough room for the beams. Instead, the beams were put in a racquetball court. There were 3 high beams across one half and 2 low beams and a dismount mat on the other half. You could literally touch the wall if you were using 4 out of the 5 beams. The middle high beam was coveted because you weren't next to a wall and you could dismount. I competed a standing full dismount as a level 9 because anything else was too sketchy to train.
I so relate to this. It's just too scary. There's a wall. Yeah. Oh my God, you guys. Some of these stories are amazing. Okay. Horsehair mats and extra large layout panel mats.
Ariel says, at the very beginning of my competitive years, I too had the horsehair mats. They were used more on the ends of the equipment, like to cover the beam base, which wasn't the Y shape we know today. We had one Nissan folding landing mat and one crash pad that couldn't be used in meets. We had spongy foam mats that were covered in red vinyl. I think they were 2 inches. For floor, we had a 40 by 40 space lined out with yellow tape done with spaces in between. Then we had panel mats placed at an X. That's where we did tumbling with handsprings and summies. We were allowed to move the aforementioned red mats as needed. I had one on the concrete placed for my back extension. My first year competing was on a wooden beam. My second year was on a Naugahyde beam. Eventually, suede beams started appearing. We happened to have a long carpet remnant for a runway, but at most other gyms, there was no runway. We just ran on the floor. The older girls used the rosin box, much like a chalk tray on the floor for vault and beam. I didn't because I was little and it looked like stepping on and crunching rocks.
Oh my God. So I was just at the I have seen, and I feel like there was one beam when I very first started gymnastics, which was in the firehouse / movie theater that was turned into, it was half firehouse, half gym on the other side eventually. There was a rosin, like a wood beam with rosin. And it's the same thing ballerinas use. Like you step in that crunchy. It's the same thing I put on my violin. Like it's rosin. It's like little candy rocks, but don't eat it.
What?
Not that I tried. I didn't. I wasn't a paste eater or any of that stuff. I just swallowed a button once accidentally. So anywho, I know. Not on purpose.
Oh.
Anyway, I wasn't trying to eat the button or anything. Anyway, but I was like, this is terrifying. No wonder they all wore beam shoes. Because if you're sweaty, death sentence. Immediate death. Like, thank God for suede beams. Okay, horsehair. We also had a horsehair mat in Germany. The first gym that I trained at was like, just like a local club thing. And it was in a church. And they basically, there was these, I loosely called mats. They were like fabric with horsehair / like hay inside them. And then they would put like the foam pad, like a vault runway over them. And that's what they tumbled on. And I was like, nope, not doing that. No. But it was impressive that I mean, I can't imagine that was I feel like it was a 30-year-old, 50-year-old solution that they were using for tumbling in that little church. Okay.
Next one.
Dangerous tramp.
Dangerous tramp. The tramp I trained on was 4 feet in the air and didn't have any safety netting around the edges. I never personally fell off, but when I was a teen coaching the preteen littles to pay for my own tuition, a kid bounced right off the side of the trampoline onto the vault runway. She was fine. Little kids are bouncy.
I mean, that is the thing. I don't know how I feel about those nets. The nets make me worried. I mean, I know it's better than flying off, but somehow they also seem very dangerous. Like you can catch, but I guess less dangerous than flying off and falling on something. All right, belly drops on mini tramp? Oh no. Oh no.
My first rec class was at a small YMCA. Probably not the craziest thing you've heard, but I'm still traumatized. I was 7 or 8, and the tramp they had was one of those small circular exercise trampolines that people used to have in their houses. Oh, no. I remember doing seat drops, donkey kicks on it, things like that. But also, they made us do belly drops on this tramp that any child would clearly be too big for. It was terrifying. The springs hurt. The tramp hurt. This was not a safe situation. I wasn't there long and thankfully transferred to an actual gymnastics facility, but that was definitely traumatizing.
Oh my God. Belly drops on a jogging trampoline? That's so dangerous. Also, I spent my entire youth running from outside the patio through the sliding glass door, I mean, with it open, obviously, through the dining room, into the living room, jumping on a jogging trampoline and doing all manner of flips until I got good enough that I would leave streaks on the ceiling from our toes, like me and T. Our toes would like hit the ceiling and leave like a line, and it would take out all of that popcorn stuff on the ceiling so that they're just like, you can see
that
all the
hurt. The popcorn stuff? Okay. I was like, that sounds like that would hurt.
But we were having too much fun.
Yeah, so it was great. Okay, next, like many other kids growing up gymnastics crazy, I had a makeshift balance beam. I remember being inspired by the low practice beam a very young gymnast, in quotes, Terrence York, had in her bedroom. It was a construction beam covered in carpet. What makes my beam a little more unusual is that I grew up in a newspaper family. My parents started the weekly newspaper in our small rural Massachusetts town when I was 3 years old, and they were just out of college. Our house was a constant chaotic hum of newspaper work, with the staff coming in and out at all hours. The editors and reporters meeting around the kitchen counter, strips of typeset print laid out all across the living room floor and in the basement, rubber cement and other 1970s newspaper production essentials everywhere. I went to sleep to the sound of my dad setting type on the huge blue IBM CompuServe computer that dominated our living room. In the middle of this hectic scene, I obsessively practiced my back walkovers and handstands on my acoustic balance beam, determined to be a champion gymnast in spite of the total indifference of my journalist parents. I was really lucky that we ran that paper, though, because since my parents weren't able or willing to pay for my team training at the gymnastics club, we were able to barter free advertising in exchange.
Nice.
P.S. It wasn't until I left the sport at age 17 and became a professional flying trapeze artist in France that my parents finally took any interest to my gymnastics ability and my acrobatic ability, because then it became a good story.
Oh my God. That is amazing. Flying trapeze artist in France. What an exciting life you had. I love the nostalgia of people like putting together the print and the typeset and starting their own newspaper. I love the story so much. I have a friend, librarian friend, who had a beam that her parents put in her second story bedroom. And she was doing her gymnastics as she did normally in her bedroom, and they were having a dinner party, had friends over, whatever, downstairs. And she did an aerial on beam, heard something, and her her dad came upstairs. She had put a crack through the whole ceiling right over the dinner table with the chandelier right where everyone was having dinner. We're like, oh yes, this is why maybe beams on the second floor. Not a great idea. But then again, the Vavers put a beam on a crane through their window during the COVID on like a third floor or something. So I guess they're American engineering, just not ready
not working.
Okay. In a movie theater.
As a beginning level competitive gymnast in the early 1970s, our team went to compete at Gleason's in an old movie theater in Minneapolis. For floor exercise, we spread out old horsehair mats for our tumbling. My teammate did a backward roll on one of the mats. I said we were beginners. She landed on her knees and just stayed there crying. We thought she was hurt, but how do you get hurt on a backward roll? It turned out her hair was wrapped around a button on the horsehair mat and she was stuck. A coach had to spend significant time unwinding her hair and helping her get up. Photo attached to the movie theater if you're watching along.
I love this. This looks totally like my first gym too. Harrisburg Gymnastics Academy, in Dauphin, or I don't know where it was. I put a link so Coop can show it. If you're a visual listener, you can look at the picture of it. But the place that was a movie theater. I also did competitions in a gym that was a theater and coached in that gym later as a grown-up. And it was extremely nerve-wracking because I was constantly afraid that we dismounted into the stage. So I was always afraid I was going to hit the stage, even though I could have tried my hardest and I would never have hit the stage. Yeah, but that place was, very old and dusty. And I feel like there was a mezzanine over the beam. So you always felt like if you stretched on beam, you were going to touch your hands to the ceiling. Is the mezzanine the second story that hangs over?
Yeah.
Is that what that's called in a theater? Yeah. But anyway, Harrisburg Gymnastics Academy. Good times. Very cool. Still there. And the other side is the firehouse.
I grew up on Cape Cod. I'm going to date myself here. I started in gymnastics in 1976. We're all scandalized. My parents were not into it, so I mowed lawns to pay for lessons. There were two options on the Cape at the time. The better gym was too far, quotes, but I was down with anything. The gym, and I use the term lightly, had suspended ceiling, and the pieces of the ceiling had been taken out over the high bar so you would not hit your head. The bars were probably men's P-bars at different heights, but I don't remember because I was a little kid. There was one wooden high beam. There might have been a low beam. I don't really remember. There was no floor, really just those old Nissan blue and tan mats and some gray ones that were tufted. But the vault, it was actually not a vault. They called it a Swedish horse. It was made out of plywood, and obviously, even to 10-year-old me, was homemade and had been covered with a pad and leather. They made it higher, and I can feel Jessica fainting already. They made it higher by stacking it onto another homemade plywood piece. It was kind of like a rectangle. If the bottom piece was under the top piece, the pieces just sat on top of each other. They were not actually attached. When you went over it, the whole thing kind of rocked.
Oh, God.
They moved to a bigger space, still no actual floor, real bars, a real horse, a covered beam, and a low beam. I competed for my high school. One set of bars, one beam, one horse, no runway, and not really a wrestling mat, but it was a one-piece thing we had to pull out every day. No high schools had spring floors. I also competed Division III in college. We had the same floor as my high school, one set of bars, one horse, a paper-thin runway, two high beams, no low beams, no tumble tramp, no pit, no spring floor. We had one 12-inch mat and plenty of 4-inchers. Once in 4 years, we got the mat they used for the high jumps to use. Once in 4 years, we got to use the trampoline, which was typically reserved for the divers. Yep, it was the chuck-a-skill era. The way you can train now is so much better and safer. There were only a few schools we competed against who had spring floors. One college competed in a very small gym. Picture your elementary school gym with a stage. Yes, it had a stage. To vault, you had to go into the hall, run across a stack of mats level with the height of the spring floor, run across the floor, and go over the horse, which was on the opposite side of the floor, and hope you didn't smack into the stage. Good times. The sad thing is all of the schools I competed against as a college athlete all of the schools I competed against as a college athlete, only one school still has a team. There are lots of other schools now that have D3 teams that did not before, and tons more D1 schools with teams creating more opportunities for athletes, so that's good. Thanks for the podcast. It's a little bit of sunshine in my life. I do long-distance triathlons now, and I save the podcast for my long bike rides when I'm able to ride on a closed trail, as in close to cars, so I don't get squished after surviving gymnastics in the 1980s. Love you guys.
Oh my God, I love this story. That sounds like, those like stacked up vaults that they use in like Germany or like the Swedish like gym, whatever they call it, strata thing. But those at least fit together like puzzle pieces. This sounds insane. Oh my God. And the wrestling mats. You guys don't even wrestling mats. This is what our high school team that I coached had to Garfield, shout out to Garfield in Seattle, had to compete on. Everyone broke their toes from full turns on the freaking wrestling mats. Constant broken toes. Speaking of which, wrestler setup.
Next one. Here's a list of various equipment monstrosities that occurred while doing high school gymnastics in the 90s. We tumbled on wrestling mats.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Our practice started right after wrestling practice, and we'd have to clean all the sweat, snot, blood, and God only knows what all the fluids were off of them. Once in a while, you'd step, roll, or otherwise encounter a wet spot at which you'd want to vomit and get a rabies tetanus booster ASAP. The floor was made up of 3 wrestling mats that were very tenuously put together.
Oh, no.
It was common for toes and fingers to snag between the mats or even part of your foot by ankle. All of the equipment was typically a rack. The 4-inch mats for landing and dismounting would have a 3-inch dead zone in the landing zone. So we'd basically be landing on the concrete below. All meet setups were temporary, so there either was no vault runway and you were running on a slippery basketball court or a concrete floor. More than once, the audience had to walk across the runway to get to the viewing area, leaving rain puddles and snow and other debris on the runway. Or if there was a runway pad, it was taped down with a single piece of packing tape so it would move or come loose while you were vaulting. The bars were men's P-bars, which at the time, and maybe still, squished ovals, which were impossible to hold on to.
Yes.
And even harder to swing around. Yes, squished ovals. Yeah. Hey, do you know what P-bars don't have? Tension cables. Or as the engineer I am refers to as structural points to prevent the bars from moving all over the place or even falling over. There were multiple times I just made up a new bar routine based on the available equipment. Speaking of structural integrity, since none of the meet or practice equipment was ever in any permanent location, it was often only held down by nothing other than its own mass. The bars moved and rocked, the beam moved, the vault horse would rock when you hit it, vault board would slide forward when you hit it, the mats would slide when you landed, there was a singular mat under the beam. If you opted for a fall more dramatic than a little boop straight down, you would have an up-close and personal encounter with a very hard surface. At one gym, they had a 4-foot square recess above the high bar to make the ceiling high enough to do a giant, as long as you were in the middle of the bar anyway. My freshman year in high school, my coach, who had apparently never been introduced to math, took me off beam at a district championship because I had fallen for the first time all season and only gotten an 8. I still won beam with this egregious score and the all-around. The girl he replaced me with got a 0.5 because those judges had no freaking mercy that day.
Oh my God! Those judges are mean as hell. Like, you couldn't get below like a 5 in... Like, when I was coaching high school, they would not give a score. And mostly they were like 6s or 7s. But like, I mean, I felt like 4 times once because I didn't do any rehab after I get a cast off on bar routine. And I didn't actually fall. I just did a basket swing over and over and over until I finally got on top of the bar and then jumped to the high bar from my butt the way it used to be in the compulsory routine. And yeah, I still think I got like a 5. Just repeating that over and over. Oh my God, those are the worst judges. How mean.
75% of the time, I didn't get a chance to warm up bars because I had a different setting than the others. Everyone had different settings back in the days of yore. And the time management involves numbers and, see previous item. No high school coaches were strong enough to spot me on anything. So I was doing souks, giants, etc. on shit-tastic equipment that was moving underneath me and no spot whatsoever. I'm sure I'll think of more. #safety third.
Oh, safety third. Oh, this should be the hashtag for gymnastics. Still to this day, if there's like a guy on P-bars who is doing an out from the P-bar skill instead of a between the P-bar skills, like the coaches will jump up quick, be a counterweight, and like lean backwards holding onto the base while they do that skill and then go back up. I mean, yeah, not meant for that. Oh my God, you guys. Next category is crazy meat stories. From you guys.
Anna says, my first one is a little more embarrassing than crazy. I was competing in a meet that was held in a club gym. The landing for bars was a mat on top of an in-ground resi pit. I had a good routine and was finishing up with a toe front dismount because flyaways are scary. When I landed, I rebounded forward due to the bounciness from the resi. I did a full dive roll out of the bounce and rolled right into the judges' table for beam, knocking it over completely while a gymnast was competing on beam. It was so mortifying. I did not want to compete beam after that.
I love this story so much. Oh my God, that's so good. Oh, you guys. Oh, I love these stories. This has made my whole week.
Also, one time we were setting up for a gymnastics meet at this Y, and we had to move the bars, vault, and beam down to the basketball court from the second floor. From the second floor, there was an entrance to a track that circled around above the court. For some of the mats and soft things, it was easy to just throw them from the track over the railing to the court below. Many parents were there to help. One of the parents asked how to get the vault table down there, and the coach jokingly said, just throw it over the railing, and you wouldn't believe it. 2 dads did exactly that.
No.
Luckily, it was just the top of the table without the legs attached, but everyone was in complete disbelief. The table survived but with no damage, but I still think about how stupid this was. For a time frame reference, I was born in 1990. So just throw it over the railing.
It'll be no problem to throw like a, I don't know, how much is that? 80 pound, 100 pound fake horse body over the railing? Oh my God. Oh, there's more.
Oh, there's more.
Oh my God.
I recently talked to someone who also trained at this YMCA. She reminded me that there was only 6 feet from the low bar to the wall for both sets of bars. Behind one set of bars, there were double doors that led to a closet. When one of the gymnasts went on bars and did her shoot over transition from high to low bar, they would open the double doors in case she might miss the bar or need the extra room. I'm hoping that was required at some point.
Oh my God, land in the closet. Oh my God, these stories, you guys. Oh, I'm dying. Okay, vault landing out double doors comedy.
I have 2 crazy meat stories. Part 1, I was competing in some very small gym somewhere. It obviously used to be a basketball gym, but like for small children. The gym was so tiny that there was literally no space to seat parents or spectators. I imagine my parents were relieved and found some bar nearby. Anyway, the landing mat for the vault was right up against some double doors leading outside into a courtyard. Random people would poke their heads in and try to walk into the gym straight onto the mats. Ugh. So I go for my blind landing vault and super over rotate and literally run out the doors into the courtyard. I had to walk back into the building to salute the judges. I remember wondering how many tenths they took for all of my steps. Part 2, this is just a classic klutzy gymnast story, simultaneously my most and least proud moment at a competition. Somehow, I got to compete on podium exactly once in my gymnastics career, even though I wasn't good and didn't go to a fancy gym. I think it was an invitational for club kids in the morning and a fancy meet in the evening, who knows. Anyway, I do my bar routine, it goes great, I stick my landing like the gold medalist I always dreamed I'd be. Then, while I was walking off the podium, I tripped over the bar cable, broke 2 toes, and crashed face first off the podium. Classic gymnast, but I did place second on bars.
Oh, all worth it! I hope when you got that medal, you looked at your toes and were like, it was all worth it.
All worth it.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh my God, these stories, you guys. Okay. Leading down the beam, score fixing, and competing around EMTs.
All right. I have a few crazy meet stories. The first one is from when I competed in high school gymnastics. My first 2 years were with a local club coach and went great. Unfortunately, that coach decided to move, and he warned me I was not going to have a good time when the new coach came in, who was the mom of one of my teammates and coached the local YMCA. I spent the next season being basically bullied by an adult and ended up getting hurt at the state meet, and her response was basically, what do you want me to do? Mid-meet, and what do you want me to do mid-meet? And continued to snark me while I tried to push through the rest of the events. I almost caused a full meltdown from the staff because I left a blood trail from my toe down the entire beam that couldn't be cleaned enough to be deemed safe for the next team to compete. My coach didn't care. I ended up needing to have my parents take me to the ER for x-rays on my foot. My coach was upset I left for the hospital instead of staying for the awards, which we clearly weren't going to win. Afterwards, while taking me back to the team hotel, my parents advised me I should tell my coach I was back from the hospital, as I was technically in her care from the school. I knock on her hotel room door, and she opens it, clearly drunk with the other female assistant coach. One of them had a black eye, and they were giggling about how they had a fight earlier and were so confused as to why I came to talk to them. I decided to leave high school gymnastics and go back to competing club at level 9. During the next year, the same judges that had judged my high school meets approached my club coaches and revealed that they had been forced to fix scores in favor of the coach's daughter, mainly against me. Our first year in high school, I could only score better than her on vault, and then as I progressed, it became all events except floor because that was the other girl's favorite. Apparently, these judges coached at the YMCA with my high school coach and got screamed at and punished if they scored me higher during a meet. This was about 15 years ago, and yes, she is still the coach at that school.
Oh my God!
My second crazy meet story occurred during our vault warm-up at a club level 8 or 9 meet. There were 2 vaulting tables that were parallel but facing opposite directions. The girl after me had a miscommunication with her coach about whether or not she was going to do a souk timer or a flip while he was standing in spotting her. I don't remember who was in the wrong, but she landed directly on her neck and didn't move. The EMTs immediately came to assess her following all protocols. Of course, apparently delaying this inconsequential meet by 10 minutes wasn't an option in this meet director's mind, so they just moved us to the other vault to start competing while this girl was being treated less than 3 feet from where we were starting our vault runs.
God.
It was so close the EMTs couldn't even have their feet overhang the mat, or we couldn't have run without tripping. I was competing a piked souk, and obviously as a teenager was a bit unnerved about doing the very vault another girl was hurt on while she was being spine-boarded less than 3 feet from me. Needless to say, when people ask me how I handle stress so well, I think back to this moment. Of course, I couldn't tell the story to anyone who isn't deep in gymnastics culture because they think you grew up in an insane environment that isn't possible in modern times. What other sport would just keep playing around someone with a serious neck injury? She ended up fracturing a bone in her neck, but she got all movement back over the next week while in the hospital.
Oh, thank God. Oh my God. I mean, this is what Ellie Reeve at CNN says about covering Charlottesville and doing that incredible work. She was like, yeah, I could do that because I did gymnastics and gymnastics was terrifying. So interviewing a bunch of Nazis who murdered someone, all possible to bring you this coverage because of gymnastics. Shout out to Ellie Reeve. Oh my God, you guys. These stories. I remember going to Garfield. We went coaching high school. We had to take the ferry to some of the other schools for away meet. So we go to one of the schools on one of these islands, and we got to one, and clearly was only meant for like tiny children and not like grown women who had gone through puberty and were already their full height. Because the vault was so close to the wall that no one could do their arm circle for vault. So no one was doing Yurchenko back then. There was like one person doing Yurchenko in high school. So like you had to run and like you could circle with one arm, but if you circled your other arm, you would smack the wall. Good. I was like, oh, for the love of God. Anyway, guys, these stories have been amazing. Thank you so much for all of your stories. I hope you guys enjoyed this extra long episode for the holiday. You guys have great travels. Enjoy yourselves. We are taking a well-earned break, as we usually do for the Thanksgiving holiday, so there's no behind the scenes on Black Friday, but there are sales in our store. Go to gymcastic.com, the store tab. And please support our sponsors, Norbert's and Tumble Track. And what else do I need to tell the people? Have fun, enjoy yourselves. Look forward to a best of episode next week, one of your all-time favorites coming up. And thank you so much for being Club Gym Nerd members and supporting us. Thank you for all your stories. We will see you back on Friday after Thanksgiving.
Friday the date to be determined.
Friday after Thanksgiving.
That's December 1st, right?
December 1st, yes.
Yeah.
Not the immediate Friday after Thanksgiving, but the Friday after that for behind the scenes, noon Pacific. Until then, take off on gay, split on rights, and thanks for listening. We'll see you in a week.